Welcome back for another episode of Husky Careers Unleashed. My name's Ryan, and I'm your host. Today, we've got a special guest from our Michigan Tech family, and to kick off the episode, let's have her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Meirow, and I'm currently the Director of Student Leadership and Involvement here at Michigan Tech. I got my undergraduate degree in biomedical sciences, and if you want the full list, I had a double major in women and gender studies and a minor in chemistry. And I actually went on to get my master's in higher education and student affairs from New York University.
Very nice. And how long have you been at Tech now?
I am finishing my sixth year. So I started in housing. I was a residence education coordinator for East McNair Hall for a couple of years before transitioning to student leadership and involvement, where I started as a coordinator and now run the office.
Very nice. Well, today our topic is going to be focused around determining your ideal field or job. And so we haven't, I haven't asked this question in a previous episode yet. So we're going to throw it way back to that question that haunts most of us, which is, what do you want to be when you grow up? So if you reflect back, do you remember as a child kind of what you had thought your future career or job would be?
Yes. Yeah. As a young child, I was determined, I guess maybe not that young, be a marine biologist. I went to SeaWorld as like a 10-year-old, and like that was it. That was the dream job. I was going to swim with the dolphins and make them do tricks and take care of them. But as I got older, it transitioned, and so I was a first generation college student. And when I really started to think about what I wanted to do and what success looked like, I was very convinced for some reason that I needed to be a doctor. That is just where my head went. Like that to me was the epitome of success that you've like achieved, and that you were serving your community. And I just was so set that one day I needed to be a doctor.
So as we heard from your intro, you didn't exactly end up where you thought you were going to, and that's also going to be part of our conversation today. Is that at any point in your career, you may have kind of those moments where you think you know where you're going, but ultimately, it's all right to change your mind as you go through life experiences, try new things, and really refine what you're passionate about, and can find a career that aligns with that. Let's jump into our first question here. So, what experiences helped you kind of narrow down what degree you wanted to get while you were in college?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I started, I declared as biomedical sciences, which you did hear. I did complete that degree, right? And that was the most easy alignment for being pre med, right? And for applying to medical school. But I also was like fully dedicated to trying everything while I was at my institution. And so I was a student senator, I was a resident assistant, I routinely volunteered on alternative spring break trips. I was doing all of the things across this campus. And then I did spend a lot of time trying out different opportunities in the biomedical field as well. So I was a tutor in our cadaver lab, and then I shadowed in OBGYN for a summer. And I think I got to my senior year and I was just thinking about all of the things I had done and experienced. And the places that I truly felt the most joy was in supporting students through those other positions. Right. So when I thought about tutoring in the cadaver lab, it wasn't like investigating the body that was exciting to me, or like, finding those discrepancies or where maybe illness was, right? I really was like excited to help the other students to learn the things, right? And particularly as a student center and a resident assistant, it was that mentorship piece for other people that I was really dedicated to. So I was like, is being a doctor the actual field that I want to go into? And I was filling out my secondary applications for medical school, and I was like, nope, it's not. And I stopped.
I'm sure a lot of people can kind of correlate to that experience of getting into a university setting, starting to try out a lot of clubs, organizations, extracurriculars, and that'll kind of help shape what they like, what they don't like, as well as find that community and ultimately may make them kind of reconsider their career path. During your journey, did you have any professors or mentors that helped kind of play a role in redefining where you kind of wanted to go with your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say my women and gender studies faculty advisor was really helpful in that. Clearly, I ended up double majoring in that subject. And so working with her and kind of talking through those places where I was finding joy or finding, an experience that resonated with me more than the science. Um, she kind of helped suggest some other options, right? And then originally that was more things in alignment with that major as well. But I think through our conversation, she realized too that that wasn't even it for me, despite the second major, right? It was some of those extracurricular pieces that really stood out. Um, and I think the biggest thing for me was just being open to that, right?
Mhm.
It's so easy to feel like you're too far down a road to change your mind, right? I was in my senior year. I was registered for all of my finishing credits for biomedical sciences. And so I finished the degree, right? I'm proud to say I have a degree in biomedical sciences. I feel like that always surprises people when I throw that out there. um, but it ultimately, right, was not where I wanted to spend my time. And so I think that's always something to consider too, right? Just because your major is a certain subject doesn't mean you haven't gained skills and experiences that can benefit you in other settings, right? There's so many more opportunities. I often, with students, pull up this graphic. It's like, your path over time, and everyone thinks it's a straight line up, right? You slowly progress in a singular career field. And really, it's all these loop to dos, and you're heading back and you're rethinking, reconsidering, and it doesn't quite look like that straight path that you anticipate.
Yeah, and I mean that's also a great metaphor for life. I mean, the shortest distance from point A to B is a straight line, but the reality is that nobody is taking that straight line because there's opportunities to experience those new things, try something else, and it's okay to kind of take those detours or the path less traveled and really experience kind of the various opportunities before really setting your sights on something definitively.
Absolutely. And sometimes that straight line is boring, right? Like you're missing out on all the other chances of things you could experience, right? You don't know, especially as a young person, what all of the opportunities there are in life. You could go to college and you're like, I'm going to do my 4 years, I'm going to do my co-op. But then you hear about this incredible study abroad experience, right? And maybe that is something that speaks to you more than doing the actual work at a company and discovering that over time and just being willing to say yes to those different opportunities when they come your way.
Well, and you mentioned that you were in your senior year, you finished out your degree. At any point, did you feel pressure from outside sources to kind of stay the path and continue on what you had originally planned? Or did you really have kind of the support and the flexibility to choose as you wanted?
A bit of both and, right? I
Mhm.
think being so close to graduation, my family in particular was like, I'm sorry, what? You're not going to do the thing you've been telling us you were going to do for the last, 8 years? And so I think there was a bit of shock in that. But I am lucky, my family ultimately was like, we want you to do what makes you happy. And so that definitely took some conversation, especially because I had been on that path for so long and so close to that finish line. But ultimately, everyone in my life was like, if that's the decision that makes the most sense for you, let's figure it out.
That's fantastic to hear, especially because I know it's two sides of a coin, and it's nice to hear that people are still kind of open to those opportunities. If a student were kind of at a point where they're considering either starting over, switching fields, but they have kind of a fear of doing that, do you have any advice that would be helpful for them to kind of make that leap or help figure out next steps in their journey?
Yes, I think first and foremost, talk to the people around you, right? Talk to your advisors, talk to your family, see what is reasonable, right? Like I know I had that support. I know I was so close, and so I finished the degree. And maybe for some folks, that same path of finishing the degree makes sense, even if that isn't the career field you want to go into, right? There are many positions that only require a bachelor's degree and aren't subject specific. Maybe there's a certificate program in something. Maybe there's some professional development through a national organization that can prepare you for a career field. That doesn't mean that you have to change your major. And so thinking through all of those options, right? And there are more options than we all anticipate. And so best way to figure those things out is by talking to people in those fields, people who maybe have some connection to it, and trying to really get a full picture of what the options are for you. Because that advice can really change the scope of what you are considering. Um, instead of feeling pigeonholed, right? You can feel like, okay, I'm still going to do this thing, right? But here are all the branches that I can take from there.
Well, and that kind of relates back to the last episode where we were talking with Zoe, who is was coming in from a recruiter lens, and we talked kind of about transferable skills. And so, even if you're getting experience and skills in a different field, there's likely a way that you can still apply it to a new path, a new opportunity. Sometimes it takes some creativity to figure out how those skills will transfer. But at every step, you're never really wasting an opportunity when you're learning because those learnings can be applied in a numerous different ways.
I mean, I think about that, right? Like now, as someone who hires staff quite regularly, I don't always think about their experiences that have given them the really specific knowledge needed for our field, right? Like if they haven't used our specific computer system or our specific way that we plan an event, right? Whatever it is, that doesn't matter to me as much as their willingness to learn, their demonstrated ability to take on new challenges, to communicate with other people, to be open to new opportunities, to share feedback with me as their supervisor. Right, all of those things that you learn just from working with other people and doing matter more to me than the like actual day to day
Mm.
job requirements.
From your perspective, as a leader, a manager, a hiring person as well, what kind of signs should somebody look for that might indicate that it's time to consider a new path or changing careers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that disinterest, right? You can tell when someone is no longer motivated towards their position, right? It's easy to see that, maybe they're meeting expectations, but they're not seeking to grow or to change things when we all know that things always need to be evolving, right? Like nothing should be stagnant. And so you can see that in people, right? You really start to disengage, and so if you are, in a major or you're in an internship and you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this is not what I thought it would be. I'm not excited to come to work the next day. I'm not, looking forward to this next challenge. It's just kind of that humdrum. And not to say, right, there are parts of every work environment that are, kind of boring, right? But the overarching picture, right? Are you still feeling engaged, invested, and excited to continue to do that work?
Well, and we've kind of mentioned briefly internships, co ops. It's a great tool for students to be able to kind of test drive various career paths. It's one of the few times in your kind of career development stage of life where it's encouraged to kind of walk away from your studies for a little bit, get out into industry, and really see whether or not it's a good fit for you. So I think that's one of the best tools that we kind of help with at Michigan Tech is encouraging students to get out there, get some of that real life experience, and help determine whether or not it's the right fit for them. And it's a lot easier while you're still in college on an internship or co-op to kind of make that pivot than it is, say, maybe 5 years down the road after graduation in industry kind of figuring out what those next steps are.
Absolutely. And, I feel like our students often think about the summer internship or, a long term co op. Those opportunities can also be shorter engagement opportunities with local employers and things as well, right? Like it's possible to go shadow for a day, right? What does a day in the life of this position look like? Or finding a job on campus in like a research area, right? If there's something that you think is your interest area, go and try it, even if it's on a temporary basis. One of my favorite things about Michigan Tech is what a small and welcoming community it is. And even Houghton Hancock, Keweenaw in general, right? Folks are well acquainted with Michigan Tech and see the mutual benefit often in having the university in our area and are excited to help students learn and grow. And so I've told many students that I've come across, right? Like, if you're reconsidering and you want to go try something for a while, or if you're just wanting to ensure that the thing you want to do is what you want to do, reach out to someone who's currently doing that type of work and go give it a try. Because even if it's not, a paid internship for a full summer, a week shadowing someone in between semesters can still give you a lot of insight into what that position looks like.
Well, in the realm of getting insight into kind of what somebody's job looks like, leveraging the alumni network and LinkedIn and things like that to connect with fellow Huskies to see what does a day in their life look like post graduation, and see maybe if they're open to some of those job shadowing opportunities, like you said. So take advantage of the community and the network that you gain by coming to Michigan Tech, because I don't know of a single alum that, if you reached out to them, would not be interested in sharing kind of what their story is, what they're passionate about, and how that's shaped their career as well. So, in the realm of kind of figuring out what you want to do, are you aware of any tools, assessments, or activities that are available for folks to kind of help them learn more about themselves and maybe help shape the direction they're trying to go to find that ideal field?
I know career services offers those things, so that might be a great place to go visit. I know we were actually coaching one of our student staff this semester, this past spring, who was struggling with where they wanted to end up or what that field might look like. And so, set them up, had them go schedule an appointment. And I don't know the name of the assessment, Ryan, to be honest, but I know it was available where, right? I feel like we did this back in elementary school too, but it's interesting to see how those things change, right? Of what interests you have, how do those align with what you want a position to look like, and being able to do that. But even things like some different personality assessments, right? Are you more interested in working with people? Are you more interested in long term strategic planning, right? All of those things can shape those career interests too. And I know I joke with my students all the time when we do different leadership activities. Personality assessments are a pseudoscience. They're not like, validated instruments by any means, but they give you a chance to reflect on who you are, what your natural tendencies are towards, what you're, interested in, what you struggle with. And all of those things can help shape what direction you want to take for your future career goals.
Well, and I know the career assessments and career services has changed since I was a student, but one of the things that I did is I think I took the career assessment two or three times during my collegiate experience. Like my first year, I think after one internship or co op, and then just for fun my senior year, to see how the experiences, the education, and all of that kind of played into what the assessment would generate. And I want to say my first year, one of the top things that came up was like banking, which seems very odd. But yes, if you guys are looking for tools, assessments, things like that, come see us in career services. You can always make an appointment on Handshake or send us an email to career@mtu.edu and we can get you those resources set up. But it is a kind of a fun way to experiment and see how your experiences kind of shape the way that you do these assessments, and whether or not they'll have an impact on kind of your future career.
I just have to point this out, right? And I feel like every once in a while you do one of those things and it's like the coin flip theory, right? You
Hmm.
don't know what you want until you flip the coin and you realize that the answer is not what you wanted it to be. And so even those assessments and you getting banking, you're like, no, I don't want to do banking, right? Like that is still insight and you are still able to reflect on that and, clarify your goals
Hmm.
or whatever you want to do in the future because of the way you react to those things. And so it's still learning, even if the answer is not what you expected.
That's a great perspective on kind of the outcome of those assessments. So I encourage everyone to give it a shot, even if it's just kind of playing around, and just kind of see what the outcome is. And if you guys do one of those assessments and you're willing to share, post it on Instagram and tag career services, and we're happy to share that as well. Oh, this one's interesting. Do you think it's okay to not have a dream job and instead focus on kind of that growth over time?
Yes. I feel like people ask me what my dream job is, and I don't know. right? I know what the highest level in my field is, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know that that's ultimately where I want to end up. I think there is a lot of value in different levels of positions, and especially like, right, I work in student affairs. And I love working with students, and often in student affairs, the higher up you get, the less you work with students. And so there is some decision making in what dream job means, right? Is that the peak of your field, or is that something in between where you just realize you find the most joy? um and right, like, I've worked in student affairs for 7 years, if you don't count my undergrad at this point. I don't know that I will stay in it forever, right? You just don't know what opportunities are going to come your way. Every once in a while, I see a nonprofit job that I have a lot of transferable skills for. I'm like, I could work, at the local, I don't know, trails club or something, right? And do volunteer management and the things that I do currently in
Mhm.
my position at the university. And sometimes those things speak to me more. You don't know what experiences you're going to have later in life that might change your direction or influence where you want to spend your time. I don't think you can have a dream job, right? But just know that it could change, and paths change and careers change, especially as technology develops, right? What a dream job looks like today might not be the same thing that dream job looks like 5 years from now. And so maybe you won't want to do that as that career ebbs and flows. So it might exist, but I don't feel like we have to have one. And I don't know that most people end up where they think they're going to end up.
Well, and I feel like there's a lot of misconception about the concept of a dream job as well, because it's almost something more that you kind of build up internally without knowing what the true reality of that position might be. I'm kind of in that same boat of it's good to kind of explore and grow. And as you start to experience more career opportunities, that kind of blurry image of what a dream job might be will continue to kind of progress and define itself as you kind of navigate the continuing growth in your career. Speaking of continuing growth in your career, how has career success evolved as like a term or a definition in your life as you've gone through your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the role, right? I feel like when I first started, I was very task oriented and wanting to make sure that the things that were assigned to me were done on time, done well. Um, but especially as you move more into managerial positions and things, right? Like, my primary focus now is supporting my staff and ensuring that we have a good team who cares for each other, who supports each other. I spend a lot more time and energy on those types of things now than, making sure the calendar events posted, or things like that, right? It's all interrelated, but that focus area definitely changes. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I think success for me used to just be finishing the things and making sure the programs I was running went well, and those types of aspects. And now it's really, are we having the impact that I want us to have as a team? So it's definitely shifted over time. But it definitely depends on the role that you're in as well.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I think it's nearly impossible to keep the same definition of success as you start to have more of these life experiences. And so it's okay to kind of reevaluate, and what you once thought was maybe a metric or a milestone may not be as valuable to you in a new role or a new opportunity. So kind of be flexible with it. You never really know what those next stages of life are going to look like in your career as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like at some point too, it was like the more I work, the more successful I am, right? And so I'd volunteer for all of the things in the evenings or on the weekends, whatever, right? And that to me was like showing my dedication and my success in my position. And now sometimes I'm like, success is if I like actually leave the office by 5. Like, that is great. I'm really proud to do that. So even some of those really simple things change over time.
Oh yeah, 100% right there with you. What's something that you once thought was important for your job, but now with your experience, you realize it's really not that important anymore?
Yeah, it's funny. It's somewhat similar to my previous answer, right? Like, I felt like that task completion was the most important part at
Mhm.
first, right? Of just making sure. all the ducks were in a row, all of the things were ready, and it really just shifted to that relationship focus, right? Um, Instead of ensuring everything is exactly posted and communicated, I'd rather walk down the hall and talk to the person and make sure that we're on the same page.
Mhm.
And so it's just interesting how that has shifted over time.
So as we're kind of approaching our almost our 30-minute mark, what's one thing that you want students to remember if they're unsure about what they want to do?
Give yourself time to explore. That's really what college is for. Even if you come in declared your first year, try some other things along the way, just to make sure you're sure, right? Like even if you are 100 seemingly percent positive that that is the direction you want to go, try a couple of other things because you just never know what might strike you, what might change that direction. But even if you don't in college, just be open to that changing over time as well, right? I feel like a lot of folks, we're using the stereotype that most of our students are engineers, which is true. Um, Folks really seem to like that problem solving aspect. But I've heard from a lot of alums who then go into managerial roles and they're like, this is what I was meant to do, not the actual problem solving components. And so just being open to those experiences and willing to learn from them. Just there's always new adventures. And so don't shut them down too early. Give yourself a chance to see what's out there.
Well, and as somebody who has an engineering degree from Michigan Tech that doesn't really use their engineering degree, I think I definitely resonate with that concept of kind of problem solving and leveraging it in a non-traditional way. One of the most important things that I think I was taught while I was a student was more the problem solving mindset in the process. And even if you're not crunching hard numbers or statistical analysis and things like that, the basis behind that thought process can be applied to almost anywhere. So, just another example of how you can still use the tools you learned in your degree as you may be pivoting and trying out different career paths that aren't directly related to your degree. And just another example that it's okay to kind of switch things up post graduation and kind of experiment along the way in your career.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those competencies, right? The thinking critically and the communication skills and the professional work ethic, right? Those things are going to keep pushing you forward, not just your technical skills. So keeping those things in mind.
So, with that, are there other topics or things you want to cover in the episode before we kind of wrap things up?
Do you want to share about your career journey or have you already done that?
So, as I mentioned, I am a Michigan Tech alum as well. I graduated in May of 2019 with a degree in mechanical engineering and a minor in technical theater. And at that point, I had kind of my dream job identified. I knew that I wanted to move to Florida, work for the Walt Disney Company doing some form of engineering. And that was specifically why I had picked mechanical engineering and a minor in technical theater, because it kind of bridged those two disciplines for the themed entertainment industry. And as I was there, we had a little hiccup in the industry when the pandemic rolled around and theme parks closed down. And so I was kind of left figuring out what's next. Do I want to do corporate engineering somewhere else, or do I want to kind of try something new? So at that point, I decided to try something new and kind of went the entrepreneur route and started building my own businesses. I've always had a passion for travel, so I wanted to incorporate travel into that. And ultimately, that has led me to where I am today. I've been traveling mostly full time now for the last 4 years. And I've had the awesome opportunity to come back and work with career services on multiple occasions. So being able to still give back to kind of my community through Michigan Tech, but also try new things. And so, although I've got that engineering degree, my title now is Manager for Strategic Content and Social Media, which, if you would have told me at graduation with an engineering degree that I would have been kind of going more into a media and marketing role, I would have probably laughed at you. But I was open to those new opportunities and trying new things. And the kind of transitioning into this industry and this type of job allows me to access the creativity side but also still use my problem solving and kind of analysis through data, which are all things that I learned in my degree at Tech. So, just another example of that my path was not a straight line, nor did it go exactly where I thought it was going to go, but I wouldn't change anything that has happened in the past because it's led me to where I am today. And I'm so thankful for that.
It's an awesome story, and I think particularly being a Michigan Tech alum, Ryan, it's great for students to hear that, right? And so sometimes it's not even your choice, right? And that kind of goes back to my comment about industries changing over time and what those needs look like. What your dream job is today might not exist in quite the same way in the future because there's a global pandemic, right? Like, and not that you couldn't go back to it, right? But things will shift, and then maybe you'll try something different. And you'll fall in love with that. So, yeah, it's awesome that you have, incorporated a lot of the things you're passionate about in what you're doing.
Well, and that's what I always tell people. Nobody can take your degree away from you. So, if at some point I decide I want to go back into the engineering world, I still have that degree backing it up. Yes, I may be a little bit of out of sync with what the industry has been doing, but you have the base knowledge. You can always go back to something if you decide to kind of take one of those detours and try something new.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to sit down with me and have this conversation about kind of trying to figure out your ideal field, being open to those detours, and realizing that it's not too late to try something new and change your mind throughout that process. And as we mentioned in the episode, if you guys do need assistance at all, feel free to reach out to us in career services, either through scheduling an appointment on Handshake, coming into our office in the admin building 220, or you can always email us at career@mtu.edu and we can get you connected with the right people to kind of help with your career journey.